You struggle to find a compelling composition out in the field? In this video I'll tell you exactly what I do to get out an amazing composition. Hi my friends, very nice to see you. I got lots of questions about compositions in landscape photography, and quite interesting, the most troubles seem to be in finding a composition. And so I thought I will give you some really useful tips. And the really interesting thing is, I grew up with these things, but no one told me to do it exactly in that way. So I really wished I had known this earlier. And you know, I engaged my whole life with composition. And just for the case that you are new to this channel, it is all about landscape photography. Just let me show you a couple of paintings of my grandfather. He was a homeland painter here in this area and a professor of art. The house of my parents was full with paintings, and the daily table talk was something like, why are these bushes here in the foreground? Why is there shadow behind them? What is the role of the trees back there? What does this line do with our eyes? And what for do we need this peak over there? Why is this triangle back there important for this composition? I grew up with these things, and I want to be honest, I really see the world exactly in that way when I think about building up a composition. This means I see normal, of course, but I can switch in a kind of composition mode if you want. And this is really a big advantage when you want to find a composition out in the field. And I will show you here now exactly what I do to find a composition. And I think very important to understand is our brain plays tricks on us. So you know, when you are out on location or anywhere out in the nature and you see anything beautiful, you just grab your camera and you want to photograph it. And now imagine you go home and you are so excited about what you have photographed, and you put it to Lightroom and then you see, oh no, how does it look? And the problem is, we see totally different as a camera does. The camera only sees one picture, but we are not able to see the entire scene with our eyes. So what we do is, we see lots of pictures out there, and our brain is really clever. It has something like a panel function included if you want, and it is much better than the one of Lightroom. So it's a panel of, let's say, maybe 50 images, something like this, and our eyes only see 5 images there. And the rest of the image is a kind of content-aware filling if you want. So our brain fills up the missing parts. And this is why we don't see reality as it really is. And so we see a totally different picture as our camera does. So our brain plays tricks on us, but we can get rid of it. And what I do is, I try to find I call it a trigger. I ask myself, what is it what I really like at this scene? Why do I want to photograph it? So first of all, let me show you a more obvious example. So here I found this nice little cascade, what looks like a water spider. This is the reason why the image title of this photograph is Water Spider. But the trigger hasn't necessarily to be the subject. There are also other possibilities. So let me show you here, for instance. Here I got attracted by this amazing rock in the foreground, but the trigger is not the subject, the trigger is the foreground. Anyway, the trigger really helped me to build up this amazing composition. So the trigger could be the subject itself, but it could also be a character in your composition, but it could also be just a shape or a pattern or just a light spot in the landscape or even just a story. So let me show you another example. Here I got triggered by all these amazing triangles in the landscape. Here at the left, back at the mountains, down in the reflections, the land at the right. It's absolutely fantastic. And the subject were not the triangles. It was just this kind of trigger what attracted me, just to look for it, just to have a starting point where I can go on. And also really important, I often see this on my workshops, that photographers try to look for something beautiful. And yeah, I mean, the nature is beautiful, landscapes are beautiful, but the trigger doesn't necessarily need to be beautiful. So let me show you this example here. It is Guardians of a Veteran, And yeah, let's be honest, this stump here is not beautiful. It is even a negative composition, a negative story. It's an old tree, it died already, and the young trees around guard him. So also negative stories can evoke positive emotions in the viewers because we are humans, we are social. There's a kind of sympathy maybe we have. And in this case I was not triggered by the stump, I was not triggered by the trees, I was triggered by the story itself. And the trigger could also be an element what is not the character of your composition. So when we have a look here, the image title is The Keeper and the rock is the subject, but I was not triggered by it. I went through the water, I climbed at this rock to find a composition for the waterfall back there, and yeah, I mean, it was really a fantastic waterfall. It looked so beautiful. I think there were some logs back there, I had fantastic color contrasts. And yeah, I was really attracted by this waterfall back there, but it was not part of my story. The composition I found finally was much stronger than this beautiful waterfall back there. And this is why I finally cut the waterfall at the top. It's not to see in the composition. And so this means first I was attracted by this amazing waterfall, then I climbed up to this rock, and then I spotted this rock down there. So this means I got a new trigger and I focused on that. And this finally helped me really to get out a fantastic photograph. So the first tip, always watch out for a trigger. And I want to separate the second tip for beginners and advanced and the masters. So a very important thing generally is that you don't have stress when you look for a composition or for a trigger maybe. Calm down, relax, have a cup of tea maybe. Appreciate the nature, the landscape. Only search for a composition when you have your photography hat on. Because it's really difficult to concentrate when you think about other things, about your job, your family, anything in your house you have to change or whatever. Maybe that you have to mow the meadow or something like this. This really doesn't help. So always when you see that you're not able to concentrate on your photography, just walk around, just hike around, just get into connection with Mother Nature. This is so important. But if you have already experience, if you are already a really further advanced or even a master, try to go out even in situations where you even don't feel that you're able to find a composition. Because what's happening here is you can try to use your emotions. Maybe these are negative emotions. I had this so many times. I had any troubles in the company or whatever. I didn't feel all the well, but I anyway went out. I thought about compositions, and what I tried is I tried to bring my own emotions, my negative emotions maybe, into my composition, and this could end up in a really great composition. So let me show an example here. For instance, this is Mother Nature, I mean the title of the image. And the first time I was there, I think it was one of the worst weeks I ever had in my whole life. I worked long into the night, 7 days a week, and I really had lack of sleep. But finally I found an amazing character. It was this crooked tree. And yeah, finally I found Mother Nature in person, if you want. The original trigger was the subject in this case, this amazing crooked tree, but it was straight after the winter and there were no leaves on the tree. So I didn't spot any leaves obviously, and I built up a totally different composition. And when I came back in autumn, I saw these amazing leaves, what looks like the hair of Mother Nature. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm really happy with this one. And again, if you're a beginner, just look for a composition when you really feel well. So if you don't feel well, just get into connection. And if you're a master or a further advanced, also try to find a composition if you don't feel well. Because I think when you try to do this as beginner already, it's possible that you will be disappointed because you will get home with empty hands. You feel that you had empty hands. In reality, the hands are not empty. In reality, you found an amazing character where you can come back when the conditions are right, and finally you will get at a masterpiece maybe. So we talked about the trigger, we talked about stress. So let's come to the third point, and this is the story. I often hear from photographers that they really do hard to find a story in their landscapes. And I think the trick is to see a little bit more behind reality. So think about the sky, for instance. What do you see when you look up into the sky? Do you see just clouds up there, or do you see maybe a duck, a dolphin, a bear, whatever? So when we have a look at the keeper, for instance, you saw the photograph already before. So this rock looked for me a little bit like it would keep the water up in the pool. So this is also the reason why the image title is The Keeper. So yeah, I mean, this is an abstract story and I really looked behind reality that I was able to see it. Or when we have a look again at Guardians of Awateran, for instance, I mean, yeah, it sounds weird, but for me it looks like these young trees around guard the old stump in the center. Or let's have a look at this one. This is a really interesting example. It's a blurry image. It had lots of water on the lens, on purpose by the way, to get it more in a kind of dreamy look. And the mountain face, when I translate it from the German, it's called something like dragon's face. And I saw, and I think it might sound weird, but this is really how I see things. I saw a dragon taking a shower, looking down to the rock where I was standing, and left behind me I saw the foreleg of the dragon. And this is the reason why the title of the image is Dragon's Face. Oh, let's have a look at this one. It was the same location and it looks for me like a hand of a dragon would grab this golden egg in this lair down there. So this is also the reason why this image title is Dragon's Lair. Oh, let's have a look at this one. These roots there looked like octopuses for me, which are running back to the water. Usually this area is flooded by the water, and this is also the reason why the image title is here, Hidden Creatures. And this doesn't work only with abstract things. So when we have a look here, for instance, the image title is Living at the Edge. It's an amazing storytelling with all these houses back there at the edge of the cliff. Or this one, for example, it is Light in the End of the Valley. It tells a story how I felt when I walked down there. I was totally tired after lots of hours of hiking and I had still 2 hours in front and I saw a little light off the end of the tunnel, so I think this is the reason why I called it Light in the End of the Valley. And this brings me to the next really important point. I think this is point number 4 now. Find out the emotions about your story, and this is really important because it will help you to get an idea how to build up the composition finally. And what really helps me is when I even try to boost these emotions. Just some quick tips here. For instance, Mother Nature, you saw the picture already. I really tried to imagine that I was in the front of a naked female tree. I found also another composition with this tree, but because of thinking about my emotions, I was totally sure that this composition is the right one. Because, yeah, I mean, with all this foliage up there, it really looks like the hair of Mother Nature. And it tells the better story. And I was only able to see this because I boosted my emotions. Or when we have a look at Dragon's Face again, I really tried to imagine that I would look into the face of a dragon. I had this feeling of fear and respect and, yeah, I mean, not to get eaten by him. And here we have also a model, me obviously, and the model also expresses these emotions. This is really important when you work with models, what's not all too often in landscape photography, but sometimes it really could add to your composition. And this blurry style through the water drops support this dreamy, surreal mood. So everything comes together and finally the composition works for me. And the 5th tip for finding a composition out in the field is something what I call geometry. And very important to understand here is that the geometry should support the emotions and the story. And so when we have a look again at Light in the End of the Valley, the most important elements here is depth and contrast. So it was a really long way to hike. So these lines of the path lead back there and we have this wrinkle on the hill what leads you back there in an amazing way. I felt really tired and hungry, and so this is supported by this darkness in the foreground. I even cut the path in the front to get it a tiny bit out of balance. So let's remember I felt tired and hungry, and this is also supported by cutting the path there. Or when we have a look again at Living at the Edge, so the most important elements here are the houses and the cliff. We have the houses straight at the cliff, but the composition wouldn't work without the cliff in the foreground. So the foreground here really emphasizes the story. It's one of the most important elements here. And it takes around about a quarter of the photograph. And it looks much more dramatic than the smaller mountain face back at the house. The flow is also interesting here. We have this middle gray of the mountain face in the foreground. It leads you into the frame, and also from the left we have a line in, but the mountain face is even stronger. And then it goes back over there to the cliff line in contrast to the grass, and up to the houses at the edge. And it was really important to understand this when I was out at location. I got lots of messages of photographers who do hard to see lines and patterns and shapes in the landscape, and I found out that painters do much easier to find the composition. And the reason therefore is they have to simplify the scene, because they can't paint each pixel. They have to simplify it to the really important lines and shapes and patterns. So what you can try is, and this is what I do, I try to see the world in a more abstract way. And here I do a trick what my grandfather already did. I call it the one-eye trick. I'm not sure if it has really a name or something like this, but however I call it like that. And it works like that. Whenever I'm out in the nature and I think there could be anything fantastic, I just close one eye, and so I switch off this kind of stereotype seeing what we have, so I lose my sense of depth through that. We also don't have a stereotype seeing in our two-dimensional photographs, so I really look a little bit more like a camera. I still will see just some frames of my panel, but anyway I'm able to see just with one lens, with one eye. Of course you also could use your phone instead of that, so when you just turn it on and have a look around and so on. But to be honest, when I'm out for a hiking tour, let's say I'm hiking for 3 hours or something like this, I really often close my eyes. So I wouldn't always put out my phone therefore. I just close my eye, it's much faster, I don't have to grab my phone therefore. I grab my phone only then when I really think it has potential. It's easier and yeah, I mean it also saves battery by the way. A really long video, I know, sorry therefore, but I hope it is helpful. Thank you for watching to this point. If you watch to this point, just comment below, I were interested. So this is how I find a composition out in the nature. Maybe if you're interested about composition itself, maybe lines, patterns, balance, everything like that, just leave a comment below, maybe I will also do a video like that. And of course, if you have any questions about landscape photography or any ideas, any troubles you have, doesn't really matter. Just leave me a comment below, I will really happy to help you out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, please give me a thumb up, share this video with your friends, maybe on Facebook, Instagram, you know it would really help me to grow this channel. Subscribe to my channel if you didn't have already. Thank you so much for watching, see you next Saturday, bye!
I'm the landscape you need to see. You are the artist I'll never be. Stay with me and I have no doubt you'll make a painting that makes you proud.